Hey, I'm Moran with Creek Currents. I'm here with Mayor Rich Carlston, and today we're going to discuss the state of the city. Mayor, welcome.
Well, welcome to you, and thank you very much for doing this.
Of course. So the first question is the obvious one. How is the state of the city?
The city of Walnut Creek is doing very well. We continue to be a very livable place. People like to come to Walnut Creek. Residents continue to enjoy our wonderful quality of life from our parks, from our schools, from our library, from our open space, from our arts and recreation programs, and our senior programs and theater. I could go on, but there's no point in doing that. We have a very diverse economy. We are a job generator for the area, and we have strong retail markets, restaurants, financial markets, and service industries. And we're generally doing financially on a very good footing. We have some challenges down the road, but as of right now, we're still looking to allocate about $13 million of unallocated general funds that were surplus. And we're a safe community. And the numbers that I've been provided, which I'm very proud of, are the crime has dropped in Walnut Creek by 16% overall last year, to include reductions of 30% in auto burglaries and 25% in residential burglaries.
Wow.
So I think we're doing very well, and I think our residents recognize that.
And you mentioned there's a surplus this year, right?
There is.
Does the city have any idea what they're going to do with the extra money?
Well, we started out with a $16.8 million surplus. We've already allocated approximately 3 3/4 of that. $3.75 million. We allocated $2 million to relocate in the courtyard, which we're doing in conjunction with the sale of property, so we can have another hotel in Walnut Creek. We've allocated $1 million in matching funds to the Leisure Center project. It's a plaza project that's going to expand the plaza and become a very vibrant and wonderful location for the residents of Walnut Creek. And $750,000 to Walnut Creek downtown for an extended parklet, also to be a gathering point for the residents. We've already made some of those expenditures, but we have approximately $13 million to go. We're holding off on dealing with those expenditures until we get further information from the state retirement CalPERS. CalPERS has recently readjusted their interest rates to become much more market aware and correct. But when they adjust their rates down from an investment, that means that the cities have to pay more. And we're trying to determine what we're going to have to pay, and we want to reserve sufficient funds so that we will financially be very well positioned vis-a-vis that particular fund in the future. So we are going to be looking at that in the future, and we welcome anybody to provide input with respect to those issues.
The council has identified 4 main goals, right? And one of those being how to meet the needs of their infrastructure in the city. Can you talk to me about that a little bit?
A couple of years ago, we put in place a long-term financial plan, and that long-term financial plan was to look at all of our required expenditures over the next 10 years, as well as our projected revenues. We have sufficient funds based on the long-term financial plan to take care of operating. But the area that we have difficulty with is our infrastructure. We have over 40 buildings that are 40 years plus in age that may need significant amounts of work in the not too distant future. We're in the process this year of performing a survey of those buildings, trying to prioritize those that are most important and critical to deal with, and to guesstimate what the costs and so forth are going to be so that we can evaluate how we can best handle our infrastructure. In addition to that, we have Nasho Valley. That is a road that sees an awful lot of traffic that is going to require a fair amount of work in the future. So we as a council are going to be looking at planning forward and making sure that we can accommodate the needs that we have, and if we have to look at additional revenue sources, then we want to be in a position to explain it to the community and explain the need and the reasons so that then the community can make decisions with respect to that. But we have a very good council, and I'm very pleased to be working with the council, and I'm very complimentary of all the members of the council.
As I'm sure they are of you as well. The council's other goal among the 4 is the affordability and availability of housing, because we all know that Walnut Creek is growing. So how is the council going to be addressing that issue?
Well, housing is a statewide issue. There is a critical housing shortage in California. There is an even more critical shortage in the Bay Area, which translates into our housing markets. So it's an issue that's not just a Walnut Creek issue, it's a regional issue. And I think many of our residents have seen the impact of that issue in the last couple of years with rent increases. We are, as a council, going to be studying that. It's one of our priorities, as you mentioned. And we've had our first meeting to start talking about housing and housing issues. And I'd recommend anybody review the video of the City Council meeting for March 7 if they want to find out about it. There'll be a series of meetings, and we're going to be looking at developing those policies and those practices that will best address the issues with Walnut Creek. There's no one solution to the housing. If you read the material, and I've read an awful lot of the material, there are lots of different theories, there are lots of different studies, and none of the studies really have a conclusion. We are what some people call a microclimate. We're a built-out community, essentially, so it's an infill consideration. We have a high demand for people who want to live in Walnut Creek. So a lot of the basic studies and theories don't apply to Walnut Creek because we're kind of a unique situation that way. And we're not the only one in the area. Other cities are as well. So it's going to be a challenge. We will be working first to understand the issues, understand the theories, and probably look at a mixture of programs that might be successful. Accessory dwelling units, tiny houses. Clearly there's a need for education and outreach into the community so people understand it. And what the problem is, looking at local funding sources, how we can partner. There are just a variety of things that we're going to have to look at and make evaluations on.
Another goal that the council has laid out is to deal with the issue of homelessness and to kind of formulate a realistic response to that issue. Can you talk to me about that?
Yes, we're going to be looking at that issue. We've had a neighborhood task force that's addressed with that issue. We've seen some of the aspects of it with respect to the winter shelter. But we're going to be studying the issue on a more of a holistic approach. It is an issue that involves not only people not having houses, but their effects socially to those people, to the community. There are health issues that are associated with it, both mental and physical health. There are environmental issues that are associated with it. There is obviously a great deal of concern with respect to the increase in the homeless that's occurred in Walnut Creek.
Right.
And we have been taking steps to reach out in that regard with respect to more of a county solution. And we have been working with some of our other cities. For example, we'll be entering into an agreement with the City of Concord for what is referred to as core response teams, for when our police see a homeless person and they approach them, and that homeless person needs facilities or assistance, then we can call up this core response team that will be able to come in and do that. One of the big aspects of the homeless is education. We need to help educate our population that these are people that are as important as other people. They are people who have needs to advance, and they have particular needs, and it doesn't necessarily solve their concerns if we simply give them a handout.
Right.
We need to get them to the locations where they can get those services provided and the health taken care of, and so we need to look at it on a really broad spectrum as to what the costs are to society from it and what we should do. So you can see it's a very challenging issue. It's a regional issue, and we hope that our efforts will start spurring some regional discussion so that can be looked at in a more coordinated area.
And the last goal of the council is to update the Economic Development Strategic Plan. Can you tell me what that means?
Sure. That plan was adopted in 2006, and it needs to be updated. It's a plan that really looks at the economic benefits and growth of the city of Walnut Creek. We have been, and we will be looking at that this year, because the economic development is vital to our being able to have the revenue that we need to provide the services for the residents of Walnut Creek. We have already been doing some of those things. For example, we have a blueprint for success that was adopted by the council last year, which is focusing on streamlining and improving our development process so that people, when they come into Walnut Creek, will have a more convenient way of, or prompt way of accomplishing what they need to accomplish. Two things that have come out of that already are we have the ability for contractors to call into one of our programs, come down for one day, make a reservation, come down for one day, and our planning department will be there that needs to be there, and they will be able to accomplish all of their Walnut Creek permits, assuming that they have their project far enough along, in one day, which is a major change and has been very well received by the building community. Obviously, there's some issues with respect to other agencies, but we've talked to several of those agencies, and they are willing to cooperate and send people down so that they can accomplish more than just the Walnut Creek during that one-day period.
That's great.
Another very important component of that is we've initiated a monthly meeting with our development community and real property or a real estate community, or really anybody who's interested in what's happening in Walnut Creek, where we brief them on what the regulatory changes are coming down that might impact their projects. We invite other agencies to come down and brief them as to what they do and what they require, so that our people in Walnut Creek and the community who has an interest in coming into Walnut Creek will be able to know what their process is and know what the requirements are, and avoid that delay that often occurs. When you have a project, whether it's a retail, trying to open something, trying to build something, the cliche is time is money. Mm-hmm. And one of the real realities of that is that if our procedures are delayed and take a long period of time, then it's going to cost those people a lot more money. We've received some anecdotal information that our procedures from other agencies have been well received within the community.
Finally, Mayor, I have a personal question for you. What about living in Walnut Creek made you want to be on the City Council and do this?
I have lived in Walnut Creek for well over 35 years. I have participated in a lot of programs. I raised family here along with my wife, Sue, and we have enjoyed the quality of life. My personal belief is that when you participate in a community, that you should provide some service back to that community. I have, for the entire time that I've been here, been engaged in a lot of service activities, from being a scout leader to youth coach to being involved with a lot of nonprofits, to being on the Chamber of Commerce board and being chairman of the board, to a very visible one, which is a commissioner of the Park, Rec, and Open Space Commission. I have always thought that it was important to give back to the community, and I've done that for years. As a result of that, I've gotten to know virtually all the community leaders over the last 25 years. Mm-hmm. And they have uniformly done a lot of good for the city. The city is here because of what they have done, what those before them have done, and what we're now doing. And our quality of life is highly dependent on that. And if we all can provide service, then I think we'll have a very good future for the city of Walnut Creek. I've been very pleased and honored to have been able to serve in the last couple of years. And I hope that I'll be able to provide some good guidance as mayor during the rest of the term that I'm on the council.
Mayor Rich Carlston, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right.